Call to order the August 17th meeting of the Zoning Board of Adjustment, Town of Londonderry. I'm going to start by introducing the members. To my far right, Jay Trottier, Secretary. Neil Dunn, Clerk. Larry O'Sullivan, full member. I'm Matt Newman, Chairman. Mike Gallagher, alternate. Jay Hooley, alternate. And tonight, both Jay and Mike will be voting alternates. The meeting procedures will follow. The clerk will read the case into the record. Applicant will make their presentation. Board will address the applicant. Those in favor of the request are asked to come forth and speak at the microphone. Those opposed will have an opportunity to speak as well. Applicant will then be allowed to rebut. The opposition will be allowed to rebut. The board will then address the applicant with any final questions, and at that time the board will bring it back for final deliberations. Do I have a motion to accept the minutes from?
To accept the minutes from Wednesday, July 20th.
Do I have a second?
Second.
A second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? All right. Neil, you want to read the first case?
Case number 817, 2011-1. Benjamin C. Jr. and Mandy Levison request a special exception to allow an adult daycare business office as a home occupation in accordance with the provisions of Section 3.12. The address is 3 Watercrest Drive, Map 5, Lot 15-7, Zone AR1. No previous cases, no letters.
Okay. And if you could state your name and address.
Yes, my name is Ben Levison, 3 Watercrest Drive, Londonderry, New Hampshire.
Great. And if you want to just walk through your application.
Sure. This state of New Hampshire, the Department of Health and Human Services require the business that my wife and I want to establish to meet the requirements of the town's health, building, zone, and fire regulations. The nature of the business will be a in-client home, non-medical personal care and homemaker services business. The home office itself will not see any patients on site. The home office will just be purely for business administrative needs and taking calls from clients. In accordance with the special acceptance, the days of operation will be 7 days a week, typically during the waking hours. We will not request a sign. The total percentage of office space calculates at about 5.5% of our approximately 3,500 square feet of living space at this particular time. We will not require any parking for customers or employees. This business will be run by my wife, who is an LNA. The home occupation will be carried on only by the occupant within the dwelling, within one room that is currently not being used in the house. It's a rather large house, and so we have a number of empty rooms. The occupation will be incidental and secondary to the use of the property as a dwelling, and we have no intention of changing the characteristics of the house by making any modifications, interior or exterior. Only the members of the occupant's immediate family residing on the property will be employed. And currently, there's 3 residents living in the house. I've included a floor plan of the house, and on the second floor, bedroom number 2, which is approximately 198 square feet, will be used as the home office. And that concludes my request.
All right, any questions from the board?
Hey, Mr. Levison, you mentioned that only residents, or current residents, will be employed in the business. May I ask if those are relatives?
Yes, they are.
Okay.
That is my wife, and she plans to operate solo at this particular time. We do have two other family members, both of our daughters, who are medical professionals.
Okay, thank you for the clarification. They are currently residents of the house?
One daughter, my wife,
Okay.
and myself only at this time.
Okay, and so the three of you would be employed in the business?
My wife initially, I'll be doing the record keeping and the business management for her.
Understood. So you're willing to limit the size of the company? Obviously, you'll have business meetings all the time at home, but there will be no outside employees.
That is correct, sir.
Right. Thank you.
If I may, Mr. Chairman. Richard, I guess the terminology where the special exception to allow an adult daycare, and then it says business offices, administrative, are we allowing an adult daycare is my concern.
No, you're allowing adult daycare business office.
Okay, well, because I know we do have
That's why I was
an
pretty
adult-
clear in that.
Well, I wanted to make sure, because I didn't understand why it wouldn't have come in as just a home occupation, a business office for, and not drag the adult daycare into the exception so that it could be misconstrued as an adult daycare.
Well, what this does is pretty much clarifies for the state's licensing purposes, is that this particular use is allowed as a home occupation.
Very
So
specific.
you have no concerns that it would ever be misconstrued on the years from now, and somebody would say, well, you gave us a special exception for an adult daycare?
Well, you know, the board can make that clear in one of their conditions, if you so choose.
Yes, that's-
Okay, I just,
To just clarify that it would be for business office only.
okay, thank you.
So essentially, I mean, this is going to be an office. You don't have any potential for any patients, clients, whoever to be coming
Not
to
at
the
all.
property.
Similar to if somebody was an engineer at a high-tech company, came home to write script or code on his or her laptop, that's basically the extent of the operation, other than my wife will be returning calls to customers.
Right. There's no major deliveries of large
Noth-
objects or
Nothing at all.
anything to the house.
No.
Okay. Any other questions?
And this is all subject to licensing by the state anyway?
That is correct, sir. The initial application through the state has been approved. We are just waiting for approval from the town to complete the third phase.
No other questions for me?
Anyone in the audience have any questions, concerns? Seeing none, is there anything else you'd like to add to?
No, sir. It's pretty straightforward.
Yeah, I think so too. Again, anything from the board? I guess we can probably pull back into deliberation then.
Good idea.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you.
Well, what does everybody think here?
It's a home occupation, that's exactly what it is, whether it's,
It seems to fit the classic reason we
administration.
came up with a home office or home occupation.
Mhm.
The terminology was the only thing that had me wondering a little bit there, but.
the title.
The
Yeah.
title, yeah.
Yeah, no, absolutely. When you see the adult
So as
daycare.
long as, I think we can put that in there as a stipulation that it is indeed only a business
Only-
office, only for the adult daycare service that.
Administration, right, with
Administration.
no client visits allowed.
Yeah.
And I know you mentioned it, Larry, did you want to put something in there regarding the number of employees or?
Yeah. That only residents employed in the business,
You want to limit it to only residents?
that's what the request was. Actually, one of the things about any home occupation is that there's no outside employees unless they request it.
Mhm.
there are no outside employees requested, so
Yeah.
maybe, I would ask Richard to see if that's just redundant by saying that now.
Well, no, the ordinance does say the business shall be the owner or other family members residing in the home.
That's why I asked if it would be redundant if we said only open to residents in the home, so. So it would be
Yeah, I
redundant.
think it's pretty clear in the ordinance
All
already.
right, so there's really, there's no need to.
Done. So, anybody have any objection to me making a motion?
Nope, you'll go right ahead there.
I'd like to make a motion to approve case 817, 2011-1, special exception with the proviso that there will be no client visits allowed, that there will be no signage, and I guess that ought to do it.
All right, we have a motion. Any second?
I'll second.
We have a second. All those in favor of the motion?
Aye.
Opposed?
I almost didn't sign.
Don't want to click it.
Mr. Chairman, case 817, 2011-1, granted 5-0.
All right, we ready for the next case?
Right here.
You were good.
Before we go, it doesn't appear that they're here. I mean, I haven't seen this. What do we normally do in this case?
We can give him a few minutes.
We should probably hold off before Neil reads the...
Whatever you like, boss.
Or Mr. Chair.
Oh, excuse me. Pardon me for the
No, that's
formality.
fine. Anyone opposed to taking a short recess until someone shows up, or?
This is something anybody else wants to cover instead of waiting to the
Yeah, that's
minute meeting, so.
What are we waiting on?
Richard,
We're
do you
still
have
waiting on
anything
that.
for us, or anything new going on? The Master Plan Steering Committee that I'm a member of is moving along. We're not having a meeting in August, so that's a nice positive
Oh,
thing.
here we go.
But the next meeting's in September, and we're pretty much just going over the way to get grants to help pay for the master plan. And so far, there have been some people who volunteered or were volunteered to be on the hiring committee, subcommittee within the committee that they're going to be choosing the grant writers, I guess,
Mhm.
and the contractors. So it's a pretty good
It's been productive.
I think it's very interesting, and so far all we've done, again, is that, and we've gotten lots and lots of paperwork from Southern New Hampshire Planning Commission as a partner in it, so it's also very, very helpful, very organized. Of course, you're on that too, right, Jay?
What aren't you on, Jay?
And the meetings are typically pretty short and packed with information, so pretty good.
Well, that's good.
Yeah.
All right,
Are we ready?
I think so. You want to go ahead and...
Case number 817-2011-2, Peter Shaveskeyev and Lilia Saprakina request a variance to allow an accessory structure on a lot within the 40-foot front setback required by section 2.3.1.3.3, 20 Wiley Hill Road, 527, zoned AR1. No previous cases, no letters.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Good evening, dear ladies and gentlemen. And my name is Peter Shushkiv, and I'm here presenting my family. I asked them not to come because I will be too excited talking. I'm sorry about it.
And your address, if you can just, for the record?
Sorry?
Your address, for the record?
It's 20 Wiley Hill Road, Londonderry, New Hampshire. And here I would like to present the case. And first I would like to say a few words of gratefulness to Richard the Cohen. He really helped me a lot, not only in this case, in many other cases too. And really his supporters, I appreciate very much. And property improved, really, he can have a look at. Because of the town interference, it's really looking very good right now.
You know, if you could just speak into the microphone a little more.
So in this case here, I would like to tell a few words about family because it may be essential for you to understand why it's a little bit messy, happened that way. The thing was, this spring we've been really appalled by the news about our son who's in the army in Iraq, and he was just January, he'd been here for vacation, and then he returned back, and we heard news about his accident happened there. So his vehicle was blasted, and he's a medic, so luckily he was just slightly injured there, but not his other people in the vehicle. So trying to save them, he was desperately trying to open the block door of the vehicle, and in the process he injured himself very badly too. And he doesn't tell us much, he does. That's what we learned from military officers. And after that he was really very badly shocked, and he has a nervous stress, and we're expecting him to come shortly. And that's why we basically tried to build it to improve the property and build a shed for him to park the trailer. He can have a rest and after that. So he lives there now, he likes it, he enjoys it to sleep there. So that's maybe explains you why we are so much kind of forgotten about the situation with the town. We thought, I just read quickly the reference and found out that probably that shed no problem because we are basically within the town requirement, and we thought it will be fine. We can get permit later on when I will be go to town because I have the other project to report to anyway. So basically, that's the background. Generally, me and my wife, we're hard-working family. We work most of our time. We work on the property, trying to improve it. All these years we own it. It's already 6 years, and a lot have been done. The property changed drastically. So, of course, first neighbors thought we just kind of barbarian, removing trees and all, but it's necessary if we planning to do something. So we cleaned basically the property, dumped maybe 200 trucks of fill there to make it manageable and nice looking. So planarized it a lot, built pond, built many gardens there. You can see it in presentation. You'll see that it's a pretty nice looking, beautiful property. And still working there, still a lot working. Just working on different projects.
It would be helpful for us if you could walk through your application.
Okay, yeah, I'm sorry.
No, it's okay.
So we start here with the case of that road. When it first came to me, I thought, because that road, basically 40 years, nobody needed it. And because originally it was planned, like I know the history, the road was planned by the town as the development road to the area behind, which was completely wild at that time. So historically it happened that other roads were built and the area was developed, pretty much finished. So, and right now that road goes nowhere, just to wetland or some people's backyard. So basically town don't need it. So we thought if town don't need it, why bother about that? So maybe sooner or later we'll just apply and buy it from town, which we would like to do, of course. If zoning boards would recommend us do that, we'll do that. The idea was, and plus the instruction told us that if it's a shed less than 400 feet, we can place it anyway, basically. So that's what we did. And drawing there shows you that it's a classical shed, and positioning there also on the slides you can see. First, two slides showing you the roads and as it was originally and like it is now in the town. And if you notice the road, the beginning of the road when it goes to Valley Hill was originally used to have the radius mouth for cars turning in and out. Now it's eliminated, it's part of our property. We are taxed for that too. So it seemed like there's no really significant plans to develop that road. And positioning of the shed with Richard here, we're there together. We've seen the town marker, which is clearly seen there on the picture. We know it, so we can define position of the shed with precision of 1 inch. So it's not a big deal. And the other slides showing you the location of the shed, and you see the shed is located completely on the gravel. We have, there's so many slides, but if you go a little bit forward, you will see the schematic drawing, which I supplied to the town before too. It's on the right like that. You can see it. On that drawing, you can see schematically that it has concrete posts there structurally just to support the whole thing because it's relatively heavy on top of it. So I put the concrete posts, which I didn't plan originally. That was one of the reasons. I didn't plan them. I just thought it would be harder if I put them. And I drill holes in the gravel. I can't go further because the original level there shown is so hard, it's rock and stumps. It's not drillable at all. So I just drill it till the gravel and I just put concrete posts. So there's no footings, nothing there. So they are extractable in any case. So it just looked to me that the construction of the shed, of course, it's a little hard, but it seemed like it's still a shed, a classical shed. There's nothing else but gravel there. And the trailers stay on it. You can see it on the pictures there too. So, and Richard, I call him as a witness here, looked at the construction itself. He confirms it's all bolted well, and construction is pretty hard, made of nice looking color metal, and some of the picture shows how it looks like from, like here you can see how it looks like from location of one of the neighbor who really see it. It's 22 Valley Hill, my next neighbor. He's a very friendly person. We built a lot of things together with him. So we have very nice relation. He is pretty happy to see that because it really looks nice. So basically all other people who may be affected by this thing, nobody else can see it. So it's pretty much concealed within the property, open to only one basically property out there. That's it. So, considering all these facts, I have a page there clarifying your ordinance, so how structure is really made. So it's pretty well lit. It has all accesses from all the sides. There's no walls there. It's all concrete filled lolly post sitting in the concrete posts. I use bucket to do that. So it's up to you, judge it, of course.
So do we have a permit yet for this?
Like I said, because it was in such a haste, I thought I will file it later because I thought that shed is typical shed. So I filed it later, but of course it was on hold till you will resolve it.
Okay, so what you're describing for us, if you don't mind me interrupting,
No, go right ahead.
has no pertinence to us because that really isn't the issue. The issue is that you're building within a
Right.
setback. And it really isn't up to us to determine whether what you've built and that exists now is permittable. Okay, so we're not really going to be saying you can have a permit for this. That's not our job. All we're going to be speaking about is where you sit with that design or where it's placed on the property in relationship to the side lot line or the front lot line.
Right,
That's all.
yes,
Okay.
exactly. Yeah, and I know it's formally it's violating the town regulations if it's decided to be a permanent structure, but it's a shed, and according to rules I read, it says it can be anywhere. It doesn't particularly say it should be off certain limits. Maybe I understood it wrong, but
Richard, what is the definition of a shed? Do we,
Well, it's an accessory structure, basically.
and, looking at this, it's, I guess with the roof, that makes it a accessory structure, because it looks like it's some columns and,
And footings.
yeah.
See, it's not designed to be living space though either.
That's right.
And that's what we're talking about here, is you have people or someone is living there. We're
Well, that's-
really,
that-
really
that would be a separate enforcement issue altogether, so.
Right, yeah. It's not,
It's not what we're supposed to be
no.
discussing is simply the 40-foot setback. So everything else is extraneous as far as we're concerned.
Exactly.
So if you could limit your discussion to that 40-foot difference between
Right.
where it's supposed to be. Now, the road that is there, for example, you have Wiley Hill Road,
yeah,
and then there's what we always consider to be a paper road, a road that sits on your side lot line
right,
that's only paper.
yes,
And as far as this board is concerned, we generally treat that the same as a road because we don't know what's going to happen to it in the future. I mean, it isn't up to this board to make that determination what happens to that either. So where I see your points being made are that the building is really just a temporary
yes.
shelter. In effect.
Exactly.
Okay.
And we ask you only temporary permission to
And-
let it stay there.
Right, but we can't give temporary permission, really. If we're granting a variance, then,
Richard, can we get temporary permission?
Depending on the wording, we have done within
You know,
guidelines.
The board has that authority. I mean, you can grant a variance for a year, you can grant a variance for 2 years, you can limit the variance. I mean, that's part of the conditions of granting the variance. And that's strictly up to the board.
It's 11 feet, 11 1-inch, right? It's from the edge of the road. You
To the
can see it on
closest
one
part
of
of the building.
slides. Yeah, one of the slides shows this one.
there's a slide in here that shows
Yeah,
it.
yeah.
Well, I didn't see that either.
Yeah, right here.
I'll find it.
This one.
And it clearly also shows that posts and everything sits on the gravel. It's also temporary gravel.
So really, you know, what your job here tonight is to present to us given the physical characteristics of your lot, why the board should allow you to position your accessory structure where it is.
Because the other place I could, because my land, if you look at that, let me see. The best view from the Google map would be probably that picture here. Slide is Google view.
Yep.
So you can see that all the area here is pretty much already developed. We have fruit gardens in this area, located in this area. We have pond already located in this area. We have all decorative gardens in here. The only place, this is all steep hill, very difficult to do anything here, and a leach hole too. So the only place is this one, which is also hilly, but it's directly on the neighbor side. It would be very kind of not very friendly attitude to build a shed just on his property line.
Now, I noticed here you have an artificial pond. There's a pond, artificial pond?
It's artificial rubber cover.
Okay. I mean, because just in looking at that, it looks like you could move it towards that pond, and maybe relocating that pond.
It would be too dangerous because it's all gravel, you know, if we put it there, we just afraid stability of the structure, you know, it's very risky. We decided to stay a little bit away from.
Peter, you need to either pick up
Yeah.
a microphone or get to a microphone
Oh, I'm
first.
sorry.
We have a television audience of maybe some
Yes.
who may be
I-
interested.
Yeah, we thought about that. Plus, there is a road, accessory road around the pond there, which I use track to go around to push things around in property and things like that.
Chairman?
So it's a pretty tough positioning there. And it's slightly inclined too to allow park that trailer.
Go ahead, Jay.
I apologize if I didn't understand where you were saying the slope of the land is, but if you were to look to the rear of the artificial pond,
Yes.
is that the slope area or is that level?
Oh, yeah, that's very abrupt slope. One of the slides shows you the backside. It's like 5-6 feet deep down there. It's also, we partially filled it in the past too, but it's a very dangerous land there because there's a lot of stumps there and things like that on there, so it may sink with the time. So that's very unstable ground there. Because used to be a big hole, very big hole, maybe 8 and 9 feet deep. We filled, like I said, we filled it with almost 200, on this property, 200 construction trucks will fill all over the place to make it manageable. And the other back corner here, currently it's not accessible for the construction truck, so we can't bring fill there because there's no access anymore there. We have retaining wall built on the front, and there's no way for trucks now getting there.
And the area directly to the front of the pond, which appears to all be gravel now, that's level at this point?
Right, that's not enough for the trailer, it's just too narrow there. Plus, we have gardens there also. We have a lot of gardens on the property, very beautiful. Flowers and fruit gardens. Plus, we thought maybe town, we can apply to the town and acquire that, part of that road at least, so we can clean that area, fill it. It would be more accessible, easier for us, more manageable. So we just thought, for town, that's additional revenue, I understand, right?
I'm sorry, I didn't understand that part. You wanted to apply to the town for?
Because if road is not going to be used
Oh,
by town, we
did
may
you-
apply and acquire it you know.
Oh, to buy that from the
Yeah.
town?
At least part of it, half of it,
I don't know that the town would want to sell part of it. If anything, they would.
because other neighbor may want to buy the other part of it. We just don't know. But if it's allowable to buy the whole one, it's even better.
Did you bring a checkbook with you tonight? I'm joking.
I'm ready.
Unfortunately, we don't have the authority to accept any money on behalf of the town. Although things would probably work a lot easier if we did. Jay,
Like
looking
I
at
said,
that way,
it would
please.
be very, very, for us, very welcome, Rizvi, if you recommend us to do that, and we really would like to do that. Love it to do, and then it would solve all the issues right away.
Now, the use that you, may I ask about, you mentioned that you have a son who's recently returned and he's, needs this for recuperation. You were
Well,
hoping that
he's still recovering from his psychological,
he's recuperating, right?
yeah, he's in big trouble right now.
Yeah, understood. So do you foresee that lasting a long time? Do you know if the need for the shed is going to be for a long time?
Yeah, it needs, because shed is, we already painted off basically, and we see it's affected by ultraviolet and nature, you know, so we want to keep it under cover. That's really good for them.
Well, I think
Okay, the reason I'm asking the question is because a variance is forever. And if the road is built, we would have issues
Right.
in permitting something that close to a road.
No, we'll have no problem. If town decides to build, then, okay, we'll just try to find a way how to get it out of there.
Okay,
Right.
so when push comes to shove is really what I'm saying. If necessary, that can be moved to another place,
I don't know about move,
location.
because, like I said,
Or just removed.
just remove it, right?
Right.
Because thing is, potentially could be disassembled. Like I said, I have tractor to move all the things out, you know, and it's manageable. But it would be really big disaster for us.
Richard, could it be stated that, you know, if a road is to be built,
That's exactly what
I think that's where you were going.
The contingency.
I mean, is that something,
Why
Board
not?
has that authority to grant
Why
whatever
not?
conditions they,
Right.
So choose.
because we're talking about time.
Mm.
This is kind of,
If town will
Dependent.
decide for the road, it will be disaster for us anyway.
right, yeah. I
One
think so.
disaster, another disaster, so it doesn't matter.
All right.
And, you know, and the other thing I was going to ask too is, I mean, because you keep mentioning that it's a temporary structure, and,
Yes.
I mean, honestly, in your estimation, I mean, is this something that you think could be up there for 5 years, 10 years? 2
If-
years.
I built it really well, so if you don't touch it, it will stay, I don't know, as long as I will live.
I
But
won't touch it.
if you don't touch it, it will stay, you know, but if you want to move it, we can remove it, you know.
But your long-term goal with this structure, is it something that you plan on keeping?
Keep shed, right, it's made exactly the size of the trailer we have, you know, so it just fits that precisely there, that's it. It's made exactly for that purpose.
So really, it's a temporary structure that you anticipate staying in its location, if you can, for indefinitely?
Yeah.
Okay.
It could stay indefinitely, really, and it's made, like I said, it's made of very hard materials like metal. It has, you know, a velvet under it and wood, so by itself it could stay as long as you want it and doesn't require any maintenance, basically. I haven't finished it, so if there's tomorrow strong wind, some of the metal may fly away because Richard told me not to do anything, so just there. But I need to screw it in properly.
Right. Well, again, we're not here to discuss how it was built at all.
Yeah.
Our idea, though, is in asking you these questions, Peter,
Yes.
is so that you would be able to tell us some information so that we can work within the scope of the law to allow the use that you have, or this building,
Okay.
the structure on the property, and that's all.
Mm-hmm.
What we may also have issue with as a board is that your use of this as another residence, is gonna be another story, because you could be back here for that as well. So, there's no plumbing on this site, is there?
No.
And
I have the connection to the fountain, basically, because the pump stays there to pump water to the fountain in the pond, that's it.
And there's no sanitation?
No. No
So it's a
sanitation.
storage shed.
Nothing.
It's
Yeah,
the
I
roof of the
plan also,
storage
I
shed.
already wrote Richard that basically I plan to put the electricity just to make a light because sometimes it's dark there. And that's it. Yeah, it's storage. You can go and see it yourself. It's a storage for some junk and, trailer. I don't think it's junk yet.
Yeah, I think we're satisfied with it. It's a storage
Facility.
that stores the trailer.
Like I said, well, let son use it because of his condition. He just enjoyed to be alone right now, so we don't want to touch him.
Mhm.
So that's. Maybe it associates him with the memory when he was young, we were traveling.
No,
I don't know.
it's hard. Do we have any other questions from the board?
Richard asked for a survey of the land. Are we comfortable that it's 11 feet off the right-of-way?
Yeah, I did visit the site. I mean, originally, usually in cases like this, we do require some sort of boundary survey or something like that to make a more precise determination of what the actual setback is. But I did visit the site with the property owner, and you have a picture of that shows a bound marker there, which is across that right-of-way. So it was very simple to make an appropriate measurement and determine that the actual setback of that structure from the property line is 11 feet.
So even if it was to be considered a side lot, side setback, you're working with 15 feet, right?
That's right.
So we're well within that by 4 feet as well.
That's
So-
for sure.
And you haven't asked the town yet whether they sell the road to you, huh? Well, that could make this go
I
away,
would love
right?
that, Because like I said, right now we can't do anything there, but we would love to see its culture, We planted trees there. Planted there a lot of fir trees, Canadian firs, on that road. We didn't ask permission though, but we just kind of did it.
I wouldn't admit to anything. Yeah.
This is being recorded
Yeah.
for posterity. And something, no good deed goes unpunished.
Yeah, there were threatening oaks there hanging, so we have to move them away, so I tell you honestly, because they were just falling on us. So we removed them, and instead we planted Canadians a little bit away from the garden side. Like 11 or 12 of them, just in a row. They're going good.
I'll tell you, one thing I'm having a little problem with is, with your location, and, I understand you've got this artificial pond, and I'm sure it looks very nice. But it just seems, for a necessary structure like this, to move it more towards the center of the property, away from the property line, it seems like you've got a lot of property to work with. And so, I know you said that it's gravelly.
It's not accessible because if you, unfortunately, it doesn't tell, it just shows you flat, but indeed the middle is a big hill. And
Not even so much that far over. I'm just talking more, really where that pond sits.
And like I said, it's a very scary place because there's sand and gravel, very unstable ground. I wouldn't go there. I wouldn't.
And
it's
what's
very
the
deep.
the ground right now?
It's
Where the structure
mostly,
is?
Where the structure sits is originally was filled first with just whatever dumps there trucks bringing. Then I put a lot of gravel to flatten it, And gravel is that Londonderry open road company. That's a sand and gravel mixture. They told me it's pretty stable. It is stable. It's not really moved by water. But that around the pond there's a lot of clay and sand. So I just don't want to come close to it.
Okay.
Because originally I thought clay will hold the water. It didn't. So I just, in desperation, last year we put rubber there. Spent a lot of money on that. So that holds water, at least.
So you're saying that the only buildable space on that flat area was where this was placed?
Right, right. That's because it sits on the original ground, which is firm, it's rock.
Which is what?
Rock and, original ground there, which is deep, maybe 3 and 4 feet down there, is pretty rocky, solid. Yes.
That you show here?
Yeah.
On this one?
Yeah.
Okay, so then you have below that hard rock.
Right.
Okay. And you don't have hard rock under the pond or the man-made pond?
It's very deep. It is too, but it's so deep there. It's like maybe 10 feet deep. And on top of it, there's a lot of unstable things, like they said, sand and gravel and all that thing. Because we tried to deal with that hole for a long time, fighting, but we just couldn't do anything. Nothing holds that water. It turns into mud, and finally we shallowed it out a little bit with the sand and put the rubber.
What's the size of your lot?
Roughly 2 acres. It's tough to measure because it's so non-parallel, on both sides.
What is it on your tax bill?
That's roughly about 2 acres.
2 acres.
Mhm. Could be slightly more because, like I said, some angles were straightened by town. I didn't know that. I just saw it on the map.
Yeah, it's
The online
exactly 2
assessment has
acres.
it 2 even.
Richard, what's the requirements for the footings, depth-wise?
Well, that's part of the confusion, is the requirement for the footings. Our local building regulations have amended our adopted building code to require structures 400 square feet or less, or 400 square feet or more, to have permanent footings. Once you have permanent footings, then that meets the definition of a structure by our ordinance, whereby it now has a permanent location on the ground. If someone builds a structure less than the 400 square foot limit, they're not required to have permanent footings. They can place them on blocks, place a structure on gravel, and so forth. However, if they so choose to provide footings for that structure where it's anchored to the ground, it now has a permanent location on the ground. And regardless of the size of the structure, it now meets the definition of a structure whereby it's subject to the setback provisions. And that's the case we have here. This structure is less than the 400 square feet. However, because it has permanent footings, it now has a permanent location on the ground, and it is a structure that must meet the setback. So that's the conundrum.
If this structure did not have permanent footings, then we're not here?
Exactly.
If it was built like a pole barn or something, we wouldn't be here.
That's right.
And there's no way to have this structure without the permanent footings that you've got right here?
They're there.
It's too tall for that.
There's no doubt they're
It's not really permanent, because if it's permanent, I would use that footing for my house construction too. But Richard will say, no, it's not good.
It's not permanent enough, right?
Yeah, so it's something in between, which is difficult to judge. It's not really permanent because it doesn't have footing.
In the town's judgment, it's permanent, so that's what we're...
Yeah, that's a problem. That's, I think, the only issue is what you think of the footing. But like I said, if it would be permanent, it means you can't extract it. That one you can extract. You just assemble it, pull it, it will go away because it's in the gravel. And it's not 4 feet, it's just far less, some of them like 2 feet.
And I guess, yeah, that's kind of where I was going at with it. I mean, if some are, if it's only 2 feet down, I mean, it's still a permanent.
It looks like a duck, quacks like a duck, it's a duck.
Quack, quack.
Plain and simple. That's the way that we've interpreted the ordinance, and, we've consistently applied it that way. to.
It may be misleading, because originally when I drew it, I put it 4 feet on the original drawing, but it never come true, because there's no way you can drill 4 feet in a rock, you know, it's just... I tried it, and man, it's not going there, so okay, say, it's enough.
Neil, go ahead.
I guess maybe, Rich, you could help me with this. So if we were to approve this, then the next process will be to get the permit pulled, I guess, that still hasn't been pulled. And then you would go in and look at these footings, and if they weren't sufficient, the thing could end up having to be adjusted or made whole again, I guess. And so then I'm wondering, I guess, if that's where it ends up being, and the gentleman,
Why didn't you move it anyway?
why didn't we move it anyway? I guess is where I'm kind of having this confusion over.
It looks to me as if this is, I don't mean to,
Go ahead.
it looks to me as if you didn't have many places or many choices where to put it anyway.
Except for you did bring in 200 yards of fill, you said, or something?
200 truckloads.
Truckloads, also more than yards, yeah.
Not only this place, it's also that place used to be a wild overgrowth, very big holes there, up to 10 feet deep, something like that. And I did it together with my neighbor. He also get rid of his part of the hole too. So we build a wall right now. From my side, it's retaining wall. He also wants to build retaining wall on his side. So we have trees on that too. So it's all artificial built things.
To the left side of the home, is that ground also?
Left side, no, it's not touched. It's not touched. We only just detreated partially to remove the shade, because we have a lot of decoration trees now growing.
But the ground is level?
The ground is as it was originally. It's planarized by the rakes, tractor rakes, but it's original. But it's not accessible. It's just, you can't get that. There's no way vehicle to get that,
There's no way to get,
to that part. Because from this side, there's no truck access. Even my Jeep wouldn't go through here, because I left here a little hole, but it's not enough for larger vehicle to go through.
In order to store a trailer, it would be difficult to get that trailer.
Yeah, you just
To that
can't get
location.
that. Plus, you need to cross a leach field. I don't want to do that.
Oh, if that's a place where you're a leach field, then you're not driving, you shouldn't be driving over that with a trailer.
Yeah, but if we were talking about strictly storing the trailer, then there's, the road that leads all the way back into it would seem to provide enough room to store a trailer. I mean,
What road are you talking about?
if you look at...
On the left side of the house?
They're not numbered. If you looked at the diagram that shows aerial view with the 50-foot town map and the decorated gardens on the left and the road going down back to where that is, it's the first picture after Richard's letters.
A Google satellite view?
Yeah, I think it's the satellite view.
So you're talking about the left side corner?
this one?
Yeah.
That corner is virtually inaccessible. Only tractor can go there, you know. No truck even can go. I have problem right now because I need to fill. There's a big hole there too. I need to fill, but I can't.
Well, it looks to me as if that's the driveway, and that's how the camper, trailer, whatever you want to call it, gets in and out. So, I mean, if we're strictly talking storage, maybe in that back location, there's no other options, but it looks like there's plenty of room all along in the storage point of view. It's all on,
To the front of the pond?
correct.
Oh, front of the port. Yeah. Front of the port is basically, I use that access to the storage of the firewood in this area, so this is all usable utility roads here. Storage there would just block me access completely there.
I mean, not to mention you're bringing it closer to the front of the lot. I would
More
think,
visibility.
right, I would think it's, the town would prefer to, a storage facility would be
Plus
further
it's
off the...
It's also a big slope down there on this side. It's a very...
It's a very slopey lot.
Yeah, it
Well,
was
yeah.
even, it was even worse before. But we try our best, and a lot of water going through it just to the pond from the road, and that's pretty watery place too. Flash water, and we use it to dump snow from when we clean it, whole area of town and all, I push it with the truck down to the pond side. So in the winter time, it's not good to walk it too. Otherwise, I don't know a place to go for the snow. This winter was so bad, really.
Any other questions from the board?
This is one where I wish we could have seen where this is, because I haven't.
I drove by, and the whole lot and the house is pretty well blocked with trees and everything else. You can
Is
barely
that
see
the
down
White
there.
House?
When you come back up, you can look down and see the
Yeah.
camper, trailer, whatever you call it, in this outer building or auxiliary structure or whatever.
Gentlemen,
But you can't get a
always
scope
welcome.
of a whole lot. It didn't look that slope to me, and that's why I'm stating that road looks like it
How did it fit it in there?
provides access. But again, without actually walking it or some kind of topo map, you don't know.
We at that point that we need to do that?
We have the gates there closed, but don't take us wrong. It doesn't mean we're closing from anybody who wants to visit us. You're always welcome, you know. We're a very kind family. Really. Can have tea if you want, anything.
Thank you.
You're most welcome.
Rich will be by this week, I think.
Oh, yeah, and I need him anyway for the other project.
And I think you have a neighbor that makes mead, right?
That's right. I think up a few. No, it was the kiln.
The kiln was up the street.
Yeah, the
Okay,
kiln,
that's it.
I'm building my arches for the addition. So you need to see that.
Okay.
Did you want to ask for comments from the public?
I did. You know what? I was just looking to see. Looking for something. At this time, if there's anyone in the public who'd like to come forward, either in favor or opposed to the request, please come forward. Seeing none.
Generally, we have very good neighborhood. We have very good relations with people around us. So I'm,
Right. You know, as far as the neighbors go, though, unfortunately, those are your neighbors now. Then we have to also be thinking about the neighbors in
Right.
5 years from
Forever.
now. Exactly.
Right. And I talk to most of the people around me, you know, how they affected. And like I said, the most affected person, he was supposed to be here today. He told me he will come. I don't know, maybe he has some business. But I talked to the other people as well. They say they don't even see, but when I show them,
Right.
they say it's not.
Yeah, all the abutters were notified, and they had the opportunity to either to
Right.
comment by mail or to come to the meeting.
Yeah. And, you know, like I said, the structure is very, very nice looking. You can see it on some pictures I showed here. I specially designed it to be looking nice, so.
Absolutely. For us, what you need to accomplish in the application and the presentation is that there are specific characteristics of your property that dictate placing the structure within the setback, and that there's really no other reasonable spot for it to be.
No, you're welcome to come and see. You will see for yourself because, like I said, all accessible by big vehicles is this part where you see the gravel thing.
Mhm.
Other part virtually non-accessible. You can't get there because there's no way here because
Road
it's
trip.
a hill.
Well, and I'm just going to pull back for a second. I mean, and I think that's something that, I don't know, as a board, we need to consider if that's going to help make a determination in this case, if that's a necessity or not. whether or not,
That's gonna warrant some discussion, you know. Well, my plan, if you're ready for it,
yeah, let's hear it.
was to approve it with the expiration on activation of the abutting road, because that's really what we're worried about, right?
How we would look if that thing's hanging and they decide to build in there is, you know, they'd be saying,
how
what are
we
they
look.
thinking? Yeah.
Doesn't
right.
matter to me.
Right.
You know, in 50
Well-
years, they may be using that road,
Yeah,
and there'll be, the use of that shed will be long gone,
Yeah.
you know, so it's,
All right, well, you know, maybe at this point, maybe we need, pull it back officially for deliberation.
Well, before we go there, maybe, on that train of thought, I had something I was gonna ask Richard, and now I've lost it. If we were to make it conditional, Richard, on that road being opened or utilized or developed or activated, thank you, that was your word, I'm sorry, Larry. Would a potential new buyer of Peter's lot be notified that that condition exists, that there was something that would make him maybe have to, a next buyer have to rip that down? Is there any way that that would be notified unless it was recorded in a deed or something?
Yeah, that would be the only way. Unless, you know, the prospective buyer would be wise enough to, you know, review the property file before purchasing the property.
Which
Otherwise,
they won't.
yeah,
Well,
aside from
and
the
that's-
deed.
That's
yeah.
my
I could be
concern on that.
responsible for
last
that.
week.
You can keep me responsible, so if not, I can stand the law against that, right? So that would be my responsibility to tell him honestly that this,
Yeah, unfortunately, no, we can't have that be your responsibility. That's
if he owns the property, of course we can.
to make sure that he discloses that?
No, that he removes it.
Oh, I misunderstood.
Why not? Absolutely.
I think, Matt, you were mentioning disclosing it. What do you-
Yeah, I was,
Disclosing or removing.
Or removing it, either one would serve the same purpose. Or would at least make the,
Okay,
I mean, either one to me would be an option.
All we want is so that the 40-foot setback is either met, and right now, despite the fact that there's a paper road there, there's reasonable questions about whether that's ever gonna be used, in my mind anyway. So I think it's a reasonable alternative to say, okay, if the road winds up being used, if he doesn't buy the road, or if his neighbor doesn't buy the road, I have to take it down. I mean, if the road starts being used, take down your shed, or move your shed. Why not?
Oh, yeah, no, I don't have
Yeah.
a problem with that. I was talking about the potential buyers.
and
I don't care about potential buyers, we care about the owner that's gonna get the variance today.
No, I understand that. He was talking about disclosing it to potential buyers, and
I
I'm
think
just saying
that's
that's
moot.
not the, right.
that would be my responsibility, I guess, as the seller. I should disclose. If I don't, they can sue me.
Is there
Yeah.
anything here, though,
Things
that
are
would
done.
require it from not meeting the 15-foot setback?
The 15-foot, you mean? Well, we're gonna allow 11 feet.
If you're taking the 40 off the table based on only if the road gets developed and you view this as a structure, is there any reason the 15 couldn't be met, though? Other than he already built it prior to pulling a permit? It couldn't have been built 4 feet to the left?
Oh, I see what you mean now, that it's a side lot, we would
The
approve.
side lot.
Actually, we're not really considering it as a side lot. We're considering it as a front lot.
because that would be a road.
It would then become a side lot. Is that what you're saying? No, it's going to become a front lot.
Functionally, it's a side lot now.
No, but at that point, it's.
Functionally,
it's-
it is now, yes.
Right, but it'd be moot because it'd be removed.
Right.
Correct, but if we say that if the road ever comes and it becomes truly a front, then it would come out.
Right.
Is there anything that addresses why it's within the 15-foot setback for a side lot now? Why couldn't it be meeting the 15, which is what it should have been, if that were a side lot?
Oh, I see what you mean. Oh, one of them precludes the other.
Right.
I mean, it's either a front or a side. And we're
Well,
talking
that's a
about
big-
the
What do you-
larger of the
I know where
circumstances,
you're
right?
All I'm saying is, had the permit been pulled first and this occurred,
Right.
4 feet might not have made a whole lot of difference, I mean, yes. And it
That,
would
that
in this-
was my
could in
mistake, I
this case.
recognize. I did mistake, but like I said, I was messed up at that time, you know, just,
Yeah, The 60s was like that for a lot of us, so.
I wasn't alive yet. Okay. Do we have any other questions for the applicant, or are we ready to discuss this further and deliberate?
Ready as ever.
Okay. All right, we're going to pull it back and discuss as a board.
Thank you very much, gentlemen. I really appreciate your time spent with me.
Thank you.
Richard, add anything?
Okay.
Do we have a name for this road, by the way, the paper road, or number? Aren't they usually numbered?
I don't know, not necessarily.
We just had a couple of those. The extension of, no?
You know, again, without physically walking the lot, if it truly is, you know, we're talking about
A reasonable test.
right slopes and the grade of the land, the type of soils.
Well, since I think it can be a very expensive denial, I think we ought to go to every, exhaustive thing that we can to ensure that we're being totally reasonable, and that a court would find us totally reasonable. So
Absolutely.
I would suggest that we take a walk. I don't mean that to be tonight, but I do suggest that we all visit the site and put this on as my suggestion would be, let's see if it'll fit someplace else. Richard's already been there. We haven't really had you say whether, it would fit, 20 feet away or not, by your opinion, but by walking it, would we be able to gather enough information to make a better decision about this for the town and for the applicant?
I don't think you're going to come up with anything different than what you've heard tonight. Basically, the property, where it's level, where that pond and that structure is shown, that's pretty much where the level part of the lot is. And as the property owner said, they brought in, tons of fill to make it that way. The lot does slope off behind the house. It gets considerably level where the gardens are, but not necessarily as level as this location is. And immediately, behind that pond and that structure, it slopes off dramatically. So you can make a site walk, but I don't think you're going to come up with anything more than what we've already discussed.
Appreciate your opinion.
Yeah.
Yeah, thank you, Richard.
Besides, the town can't afford the bus to bring us there, right? And the dinner that we would require.
That's right.
Okay, so I think that helps me with the reasonableness part of the application.
I agree. And I know I'm definitely leaning, if anything, towards a conditional.
With the expiration of the activation of the budding road?
Mm-hmm.
The abutting road, right?
And then it needs to be specific to the current location of so it's not somebody later on when the road, or if they buy the road, not moving it in its specific location now. It's not going to be moved. If we say, it's fine and it's 11.1 feet from the property
From
line.
the sideline.
Right.
Yeah.
So, again, I don't think they have any plans on moving it, but
Okay, so how would we don't know where exactly that is then?
no, I guess not. Forget that. I don't want to make it too convoluted.
I don't know, I'm still having concerns that if it doesn't pass the permitting portion of it, that it's gonna have to be
Moved anyway?
reconstructed or modified
Refooted.
or lifted and refooted, and if you're gonna go through all that process,
Why not put it back into?
can you move it, I mean,
But again,
that's,
though, but that's the thing, though, is, Richard said in his opinion that there really isn't much of there's not many spots where it could be moved, or any spots that it could be moved.
right, but if it gets back to the structure not being permittable, or there having to be modifications, then he could go to a pole barn, or it could be under the 400 square feet and use a different construction method, which
It is
he...
under the
Right, but because he put in the footings, it becomes a structure.
yes, right.
So if it can't meet there's footing requirements and all that, and there's other issues, then by us granting it, are we, I don't know. It's a tough one. It's really a tough one. When I look at the spirit of the ordinance and look at the application and the discussion, I'm not sure that the spirit of the ordinance is being hit with this. Unfortunately, you know, he went ahead without pulling permits and thinking it through. So I have trouble with number 2, spirit of the ordinance. I mean, he didn't take the necessary steps.
The ordinance is to help us to prevent crowding and to ensure sight lines and safety and so forth. That's really what the ordinance was written for.
Which,
But the map is there, the road is there, it's a map. It does look to access a large portion of property behind it and to the side of it. So to me, you observe that, I mean, without, you know, again, without looking at it and building it and filling it in a different way, or, I don't know, I'm just not comfortable with it, the spirit of the whole thing, because of the lack of the proper permitting and the answers on the form. I mean,
One question for Richard. The location that is chosen was filled, correct? So any other portion that might be buildable with fill probably could have been chosen had the sequence of tasks here been done in order.
Yeah, that's a distinct possibility.
In other words, you wouldn't have filled that spot if you knew you had to put it over here.
That's true. Yeah.
So, yes, he put a lot of fill in that location because that's where he decided to put it without validating that that was an appropriate location to go ahead with. That same amount of fill in a different location might make a different location viable. Does that make sense? In other words, we're sort of looking at, we're reverse engineering this thing. If he was gonna put whatever, pick a number out of the blue, 500 yards or whatever it is, if he hadn't put it here and he could put it there, he would have made that just as functional as he made this portion. The others might not be buildable now due to slope, but had the fill gone there instead of where it went, it might have worked. Someplace meeting the setback. Well, certainly at least meeting the 15-foot side setback.
And then that necessitates then that we consider the necessary hardships or unnecessary hardships part of that. Would it be a hardship to have it moved today?
or less of a hardship to have it torn down when the road goes through, which could happen next week.
Right.
I mean,
Well, again, I think hardship, the property, it could not be used, something that distinguishes it from other properties in the area and couldn't be reasonably used. Well, if he could have filled somewhere else and done what he did where he did fill, I mean, it's the same use, just in a more appropriate location. And I think part of what's putting this to the side is the fact that you've got gardens and a pond and it's a cumulative thing. It could reasonably have just this structure. If you didn't have a pond, it could reasonably, I'm not sure you'll find anything else in that general area with all of the above. I think it unlikely, actually. I didn't notice anything that came close.
If I could intervene, if the board doesn't mind.
Go right ahead.
If we were looking at this as a outright variance request prior to the structure being built, I would say you could apply that reasoning.
Yep.
But being that it's after the fact now, I think the board needs to consider looking at the fact of denying the variance. Would that really do justice? Would that really benefit the public good? Because the cost of moving the structure really outweighs the benefit of applying the ordinance and requiring the structure to meet the setback. So something to consider.
So then my only thought is, do people learn to build first and ask
And
for a
ask
variance
later.
later?
That's,
It's a scary road.
We've seen that before.
Yeah, well, that's the
Yeah.
whole point, yeah.
Yeah.
I think it's even on the shed page, if you build it, we will come. Which is why, ask first.
Exactly.
Yeah, I mean, and part of that discussion is the intent aspect of it, and I don't know that that's necessarily an issue here. How does the board feel about the applicant addressing us again? Is there any-
Us or Richard?
Us. I think he's got something to add. Do you have something that you feel will help make us a decision based on the layout of the property?
Just regarding the question you raised, ask first.
You know, if you're going to need to come back to the microphone, I'm sorry.
I wasn't targeting to conceal the fact because I'm working on another project with Richard. He has eyes, he will see and ask. It wasn't my purpose. It was just, I thought I can do it later because I didn't realize I violate something. You know, I thought, I read it first and thought it's a shed less than 400 feet. It should be okay, you know, there should be no problem. And it was just like caught me out of, I wasn't expecting it. It was just like, don't say that I tried to conceal it. I knew. it would
So
not.
really, what your intent, what you're saying is when you were building is that it was
I was just in a hurry to do that.
right, and it was a shed. It was just an accessory structure that wasn't
Right.
going to be a permanent structure. There wasn't at the time you
Right.
weren't really thinking
Right.
it was going to be permanent footings. And
It
ended
came
up
out
being
not
permanent footings.
planned. It spontaneously came because I need to put a trailer to let my son use it,
Mhm.
you know,
Okay.
that's it, you know, that's.
All right.
The footings, the permanent.
Thank you for
Thank
adding
you
that.
very much.
Appreciate that.
The permanent footings, kind of.
Well, that's what I think,
Here, you know,
yeah, triggered
got it here.
the situation, was the permanent, really the permanent footings, because without permanent footings, then,
Yeah, then we don't have an issue.
Just concrete wall.
just concrete. I can move that. Any more thoughts here, or is anyone close to making a motion?
I still think that, no,
Well, we
as
can
long
make
as
the
we
motion,
put the
Larry.
activation of the abutting road, the key, and make sure that all required permits and applications are applied for. So,
If you feel comfortable making a motion, then,
The only thing, I guess, Larry, before you make it, just so I feel better, I am still worried about the property selling before the road is activated and some new buyer coming along and then being held liable for
oh, I see what
demolishing and getting rid of the material in the whole 9 yards. That was one of my concerns.
Four on the road.
I mean, I know where we're at, but that would be a concern that we're maybe leaving a legacy to somebody else that would not be aware of it. We've run into that a lot also.
Okay, so then, I don't know if there's a way that we could make it contingent if the variance expire at the transfer of property.
be careful with that too, though.
Yeah,
'cause I mean-
either way, you're leaving it, you're
Transfer.
leaving it to the next person.
Right, but, I mean, transfer property, they go ahead and put the property in the name of a trust, you transfer the property. So at that point, you can pull it down.
I see.
What's it cost to update a deed?
To record it, you're looking at, well, it really wouldn't even need to be a deed. You're just putting something on record. You can put it's a restriction, $15.
And that's,
So we should make that a standard then.
well, I
And
mean,
property
if
records
it,
be
so it's a
reflected.
matter of filling out some paperwork with the restrictions or notification of the property? Is that what happened?
I mean, honestly, just recording our decision
At the
Okay,
county,
well, that would be more than sufficient. I
and
think.
county offices.
at the registry of deeds, yeah, at Brentwood. So, Jay, just a quick point. Do we not send the, has that ever been done in the past? Because, I mean, other towns do record their ZBA decisions. I was looking at one
Against
today.
every piece of property, there's a decision against?
Some do. Because it is, I mean, so it's public record.
Yeah. Well, that's more my concern here. So.
Mhm.
So in this case, we'd make it contingent upon the
Updating
applicant for 15
registry
bucks.
of deeds on the property records, yeah. Okay.
That way it'll have the restriction.
Yeah. That's good.
No process. Okay, so we have activation of the abutting road. All required permits and applications applied for. And the property records, property, yeah, I'm sorry, what would that be called? The variance recorded
decision recorded.
at the registry of deeds in Rockingham County.
Correct. You know, do we want to put any more specific language in there as far as activation of the road, just town usage of the road? I mean, anything else? Is there anything else that the town could do with that other than
Deed it over to
activating a, I mean,
conservation.
I don't know, other than actually making it a road? I mean, is there any other usage that the town could get out of that? I don't know.
I mean, you know, it's a public right-of-way. The town could use it for access to, you know, the backside of the property if they so choose, but that'd be difficult to do without actually developing it somehow.
Mhm. It's not like an oil field or anything under there, is there? We're gonna be,
I was thinking more like gold mines. What were they digging for anyway? All that back there, it used to be a very large mine of some type, right? They used to, there's huge sections of that hillside that were torn down and mined away.
really?
Yeah. Take a ride down there sometime.
I live like 5 houses away. All right, it sounds like, I think we're ready for a motion.
Motion with those 3 restrictions?
Well-
You're still not happy with the notification of potential buyers?
No, I'm just trying to follow the. if I could
14
go to
foot.
Richard for 1 second.
Go right ahead.
If less than 400 square feet does not require the permanent footings, but a permit would be pulled first,
That's right.
would you look at any type of design at that point?
Oh, yeah, we do. We require, you know, some sort of
And
plan.
at that point, would have known that he intended to put permanent footings,
That's right,
and would have then indicated what the setback needed to be prior to the fill taking place.
exactly.
Okay.
I mean, if the rules were followed,
If the rules were followed, this wouldn't have happened.
yeah, we have that fairly regularly,
Yeah.
at least a couple of times a year. Enforcement, you know,
Yeah.
people just aren't aware. It's not the community that you and I volunteer in.
No, but honestly, I mean, that truly is out of the, I think, really the purview of what we're looking at here. I mean, applying for variance for the location of where it is now.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that's what, you know, we have to base our ruling upon.
Okay.
And I don't think we're being, you know, I don't think our job is to be looking in this specific case for what the intent was
No,
at
I'm
the
not
time.
necessarily saying intent, I'm just looking at how it occurred. And whether there was a viable alternative on that lot. Getting to the hardship piece of the
Yeah.
puzzle.
Yeah.
Was there someplace else that this could have occurred?
From the get-go, you mean?
From the get-go. And if the answer is it wouldn't have occurred where it did without the fill, then the fill could have gone somewhere else. So there is a viable alternative. Maybe not, but I mean, that
There certainly was, you mean, or potentially was.
certainly potentially was.
Due diligence would have possibly turned up other
Right.
locations.
So just getting down to the hardship piece, that you couldn't do it any other way. If you were going to have to fill to do it, maybe
Right.
there was another way. Maybe there still is another way.
And the mitigation costs are the things that we always wind up with. And, you know, is there a benefit to the public? So are you ready? I'd like to make a motion, Mr. Chairman, to grant case 81711-2 with the following conditions. and restrictions. That the variance will expire on the activation of the abutting road, that all required permits and applications be applied for, and that property and the variance be recorded at the Registry of Deeds in Rockingham County.
Okay, motion to approve. Do I have a second?
I'll second.
I have a second. All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed?
Nay?
No.
He's ahead of the ballgame there. Mr. Chairman, results of case 817, 2011-2, granted 4-1,
With the restrictions.
with restrictions and requirements, if we may. The only thing I laugh at is we pass the motion, but people can vote differently on the sheet. That's to let the motion go, so you might want to hold off filling out the final sheet until the count is done. You follow me?
I do.
I think we covered everything, and everybody in the audience, you know, everybody with their hands raised. You wanted to speak next?
All right, any other business?
Any other updates, Richard?
Nothing to add.
Nothing to add.
Motion to adjourn.
Have a second?
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye.